In 2013, I coined the name Grampian, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Hey, Grampian Nation, welcome back. This is Jim, and I have a rare treat for you today. We have a guest who has been through the crucible of the Marine Corps and life, and this person is going to come, and you're going to immediately look at her and say, well, that's a Marine, and well, maybe not, but I would like to welcome Carrie Charles to the Grampian. Hey, how are you?
Thank you, Jim, for having me. I'm doing awesome. I'm so excited to be on the Grampian.
Yeah. Well, I've got so many, so many questions, but all of them go in a little bit rearward direction. You were the CEO of Broadstaff. You founded that. So you founded it like 2016, if I'm right?
Yes. So I'm a co-founder, but I came aboard after it, let's say a couple months after it was founded. And so I'm still considered a co-founder, but yeah, we started in telecom and staffing and talent solutions, and that's where we've been. Everything wireless, wireline, and yep.
Okay, so what is IT, telecom, staffing solutions? I mean, I love solutions in the name, but
Yes.
What do you do?
So what we do is we help companies find talent, whether that's full-time talent or contract talent, in the areas of telecom, engineering, construction, technology. And then we also have an IT division where we help companies find IT talent. And again, on the contract or full-time side. And we, really, I think we change lives. I mean, that's really what we do.
That's
If
awesome.
you want to know the truth. And, we help people to, not just find new jobs, but really, take on something new, a new adventure, increase their self-esteem, help support their families, help send their kids to college. I mean, there's so much we do for people.
Yeah. You're building taxpayers. I like that.
Yes, we are.
And homeowners.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got an incredibly diverse and big background. CEO, master life coach, executive centers. I don't quite know what that was, but you were VP of a couple of national mortgage companies. And how did all this lead you to Broadstaff?
Yeah, boy, do I have an eclectic background. So I started out in really selling life insurance, literally door to door. I mean, I was one of those people, right? And then I did really well there. I've been a salesperson my whole life, right? That's just what I love still.
Yeah.
And so then I got my certified financial planner and became a real financial planner. And thought, okay, I love this, but then I didn't like the compliance part because I was an entrepreneur and I thought I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and I got all this compliance, so it's not working for me. So I moved out of that and I went into, actually I took 7 years and raised my kids is what I did. I was a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Stay-at-home mom for 7 years, and I'm really happy that I did it. And then, my ex-husband at the time, he had a mortgage company and a pretty big mortgage company. And then I started working with him in the mortgage company at that time. And, then the mortgage crisis happened, which was a lot of fun, especially since we just built this massive building to house our mortgage company.
Wow.
And so we were stuck in a place where we had this building and we had to pay for it. And we had to pivot. Yeah. And so we pivoted to real estate and we created an executive suite business inside of the building. And that's where the Executive Centers of America came in, because we said, we've got to figure this out. I'll run the executive suite company, the real estate company. And then he said, okay, well, I'll go start another company to, save us financially, because that was a tough time back then. Right. And so that happened for a bit, and it was great. We filled the building, and we were able to be in a good place financially. And then from my past, my history, my story, which I think we'll probably talk about a little bit, I'd always wanted to really help people and make a difference. So
Uh-huh.
I stopped what I was doing and I got all these certifications and I became a life coach
Uh-huh.
for like 8 years. That's what I did. I
Yeah.
had, a couple hundred clients and that's what I did. And one day I was sitting in my life coaching office doing my life coaching, and my ex-husband at the time, he had invested in Broadstaff. So he was the original investor with another person. And he came to me and he said,
Sure.
I just invested in this company and, why don't you come join us as an owner and run it and grow it? And I said, gosh, I don't really know anything about staffing and I don't know much about telecom, except I was in telecom in the Marines, but I really wasn't in telecom. But
Uh-huh.
I said, why not? I want to take everything, all the craziness that I've learned over my lifetime, all the eclectic lessons, and I want to put all of that into an amazing company culture and empower people and
Yeah.
help people grow.
That's awesome. So number one, salute you for taking care of the kids and stuff when you felt called to do it. That's an amazing story into itself. But also here's what you didn't say is that like you had this huge problem and it was your job to feed the alligator. That's what they call a real estate business that's bleeding, and you fed the alligator.
Yes, I did. Oh gosh, that was tough too. I remember going to the building and they just finished it and it was so beautiful and it was completely empty and it was so big and had all these offices and we just sat there, we looked at it, we're like, I mean, and the bill's coming in, right? We got to pay for it. And I just remember we looked at each other and like, what are we going to do with this thing?
Yeah.
How are we going
Wow.
to do this, right? But again, you pivot, you pivot. We all pivoted during COVID.
Sure.
We're some people are pivoting now in their industries and saying, okay, because of the economy, I need to pivot.
Yeah. Being a survivor. Speaking of survivor, you went in 1987 and you had this thought where you said, I think I'm big and burly and nasty and I'm going to be a Marine. And so I mean, USMC RD, Paris Island, right?
Yes, absolutely.
People think of Paris Island, South Carolina, and they're thinking vacation. I'm guessing this may have not been a vacation.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, we were told when I first got to Paris Island, our drill instructors came up and they said the only way you're getting off this island is you can swim and be eaten by sharks and die, or you can just drop out right now. One or the other. Like you've
Pick
got, this
one.
is your shot. Go right now, or the only way off is death. Like that's all you
Yeah.
can do. And then I remember that this girl, in this crazy story, but I remember this girl next to me. She, we're all standing there just terrified. And she had something in her hand and it was very sharp. And this, I swear, true story. She started cutting her wrists and there was blood flying everywhere and we were just like terrified. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die here. And then the drill instructor was like, don't get blood on my uniform. And I thought, I don't even know what I did. I found help me,
Oh
get me
my
out. No.
word.
But anyway, I graduated boot camp. I was first in my class graduating because I'm like, I've got to kick this in gear and just,
Oh yeah.
if I'm going to do it, let's go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when I think of the Marines and you hear the stories, you hear about the Crucible. Tell our listeners what the Crucible is, and then we're going to roll into a little bit about what it's like.
So I want to tell you about how I joined the Marine Corps because it's a very interesting story. I was enrolled in my first year of college, and my father passed away tragically. I actually had to turn off his life support as a
Mm.
18-year-old. It was really tragic, and I went into a depression, and I dropped out of college, and just I was really not in a good place, and working as a waitress in a bar, and I was hanging out with the wrong people.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up, hanging out with those wrong people a lot. And I remember
Yeah.
we were up all night one night and it was the morning and we were going to a grocery store to get some food. And a Marine Corps recruiter walked up to us and said, ladies, do you want to come over and learn more about the Marines? I mean, he was all dressed up in his dress blues. And my friend looked at me and she goes, you could never do that. And I said, really? And I said, watch me. And I walked over there to that office. I signed up literally within a half hour, I was signing.
Oh.
I was done. And I remember the recruiter looked at me and he said, well, what do you want to do in the Marines? And I said, well, I'd like to be in journalism or maybe a news reporter. He goes, what about communications? Of course, he was a good salesperson. And I said, yeah, communications. I
The
didn't
best
realize.
salesperson.
Yeah, they are really good. And I didn't realize he's talking about telecommunications, but I would
wow.
be carrying a radio, right?
Uh-huh.
And working on the radio all day long and spending the majority of my time in the field eating MREs, not taking showers. And so that's what I did in the
Yeah.
Marines.
Oh,
Yes.
fish on.
Yeah.
Wow. But you you made the decision. That's kind of like, I'll show you.
Yes.
Oh man. At that time, like there were not very many females in the Marine Corps. And now there's like 8.9 or 9% or something like that. How many were then?
Oh gosh, there were very little. When I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, I believe the ratio was like 88-1. And it
Wow.
wasn't a good experience at
Yeah.
all. I mean, there was, oh my goodness, just harassment and there was many of the people and the men that were way above me would say, we don't want women in our Marine Corps. We don't want WMs, they would call us.
Yeah.
And so it was tough. It was really tough. Yeah.
Well, it makes it's one of those character building experiences that you never want to do again, right?
You're right. In fact, I got a tattoo when I first got out of boot camp, and that's what we all do. You go get your tattoo after you get a Marine Corps boot camp.
Uh-huh.
And I recently went in because I thought, well, I'm in my 50s now. Maybe I should get this removed. It doesn't even look like a wolf anymore with blood coming out of its fangs. And so I went in and I looked at her and she's talked to me about removing it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to keep it. Like this represents something to me that, like that.
Learn the hard way.
Right. That's made me who I am and allowed me to be successful in, in anything that I choose to do. Not anything, but what I choose to.
Well, teaching, coaching, and banging heads with jarheads is probably not conducive to a great career in telecom, but it sure looks like it worked.
It did. It did.
Okay. So now you have a business that is remarkably successful by any metric. And on the Grampian, often we a lot of times we get to talk about those celebration moments, those Super Bowl victories, whatever they are, but we really try to focus on the path to get there. And so what are the challenges that you face in the business today that you maybe didn't expect or have surprised you or just won't go away?
Gosh, there's so many challenges. And I think, one is that we are in the business of people and our product is people, right? So people walk, they talk, they make their own decisions. They, it's not like I'm selling a pen and I can control what this pen does. And I know that it's going to be on a shelf when I go get it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, having that challenge exist that, and that managing that side of it along with the, the side of it, the delivery side, the people side, along with the other side has been definitely a challenge that I recognized in staffing. But again, it's an exciting opportunity as well.
Yeah.
I think the other challenge that I experienced early on that I wasn't prepared for is the need for outside capital from, just banking relationships and that, because when, where I came from, I mean, my whole life, I was like, you spend what you have.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you don't spend it. And so, it was all about being, all very organic. And I got to a place where I said, oh my gosh, we need to raise, to get capital to grow.
Yeah.
And that was something that was enlightening for me in business because I just I didn't know that. I mean, it's like, okay, can we do this? Can we buy this? Or can we make this decision? And I said, okay, well, we're going to do it next month. or we'll do it the next month because we
Uh-huh.
can't do it this month. So I thought
Sure.
that was also a challenge that we were able to overcome. And, I think the other piece of it is rolling with the industry and the economic conditions.
Yeah.
And I think, what we're going through right now is just that, in the industry of telecom and wireless and even in IT and technology. And, there are certain economic or certain conditions that are present that have caused the faucet to turn off in certain
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is we have to, again, pivot and look at other directions, right? Where can we go that we can have that faucet turned back on? But in the meantime, you've got to keep your team engaged and motivated and excited and empowered and thinking about the future. So they've got to know that there is a future and an exciting future planned while
Hmm.
you're behind the scenes looking at, okay, where do we, which route do we take to get out of the storm?
Sure. And what I've always found, and I've been doing the wireless thing for 24 years now, is uncertainty always creates opportunity. And it's the good businesses that have solid fundamentals that don't get crazy, and they don't, I mean, you can pivot too far. I mean, and I've seen people pivot out of their sweet spot and it's like, oh my gosh. But that opportunistic and marathon attitude of abundance is something that will serve all of us in this industry well. We'll just wait for the bottom 10% to perish, and it'll happen because the good businesses will still be around. So,
Yes.
does it look like, or is there a significant obstacle to you? I mean, you entered a workforce saying, "Hey, I'm new. I don't know what I'm, but I can run the Marine Corps gamut. I can, get out of my way." What was the biggest obstacle then that was in your way when you were starting Broadstaff?
Oh my goodness. I just didn't think I knew how hard it was to
Mm,
start a staffing company and get contracts. I had no
yeah.
idea. And, because there's over 25,000 staffing companies in the country. It's a
Wow.
highly competitive field and low barrier to entry. Anyone can start one at any time. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know any of that, right? I just went in like, okay, the world is my oyster. Let's do this. And
I'm
then,
here.
then I get in. It's like, oh, so you're not going to give us a contract ever because you already
Wow.
have someone. So that was a really big obstacle because it was much harder than I thought to make that happen, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I had to, to figure that out. And one of the ways that one of the techniques that I used, or the strategies, is I said, look, I'm just going to go meet everybody in person. I mean, I just want to see everybody. I want to meet everybody. I want to know everybody. I want to be everybody's friend. I want to understand the industry. I want to get into their world and
Yeah.
understand their problems.
Yeah.
And then if they feel inclined to, to work with us, then I'm going to understand them. I'm going to know them, and I'm going to care and care deeply about them.
Yeah, building relationships. I've always
Right.
said people don't buy from companies, they buy from other people.
Yeah.
Is that true in the staffing business too?
Oh my gosh, it's so, so true in staffing. And that's why the relationships are, I mean, they're everything. And
Yeah.
I always say, I say, look, I mean, our relationships come above anything.
Yeah.
And we want to make not just we want all of our clients to be happy, period. All of them. Like, we
Yeah.
don't want one person to have any sort of negative thought about us, no matter what it takes. And I don't care what it takes. Like,
Yeah.
we will make sure that everyone is happy. Everyone is absolutely, thrilled with what we do for them. And then they can talk positively about us in the marketplace.
Hmm.
And whatever it takes, really, to do that and to make it happen.
Yeah. And then when they go out on the street, I mean, there's some kind of numbers. I'm sure somebody's got metrics on it. How many people talk bad about you if they have a bad experience versus the few that talk great about you when they do have a good experience? And lo and behold, time heals all of that if you just keep going forward doing a great job.
You're so right. We've made some decisions that, were probably not the best financial decisions at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, there's times where we had a guarantee, of X number of months. And let's say the person left their job 2 days after that guarantee expired, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, no. We are going to make good on that guarantee. But then I still had to pay commission to the people. So it literally cost us money. And at the time, it makes no sense because it's like, okay, I got to pay thousands of dollars to my team because they did their job. Mm-hmm. And I had a contract. We had a contract, right?
Yeah.
But it's not right for the client who they left 2 days after that guarantee period was over. So we took losses, but I'm telling you, that's just the right thing to do.
And one of the things that comes into play is one of the things that we developed along to with our folks. Just do the right thing. And if you don't know the right thing to do, do the best right thing. And if you don't know the best right thing to do, go ask somebody who's probably going to know what the best right thing to do is. And you have, in many ways, I mean, that's what builds some of the Grampian moments that we talk about on this podcast. And so you are an example of that. But when did you get to the place where you realize, wow, I kind of won at this? I mean, hey, here I am, and I have this business, and I won.
I think it was definitely when I was named CEO of the year in Tampa. Yeah. And I remember that it was through Tampa Bay Business and Wealth magazine, and they had these awards. And I remember I was named a finalist, and I thought, this is crazy. There's no way that I should be a finalist here. Yeah. And the people I was up against, this one man created over $1 billion company, and he was an icon in our city. And then there was another person. And I remember I didn't invite that many people to the event. And I was even in a serious relationship at the time. And I said, you don't need to come because I'm not going to win. You just don't even worry about it. But I did bring my son because he was not doing anything. I'm like, why don't you come with me?
Hey, free dinner.
And so I just came here. I was having fun. I was enjoying myself. And, I had a few of my team members. And I said, guys, please, I'm just so thankful just to be sitting here. You have no idea. Sure. And then I remember when she called my name as the winner, I wouldn't get up. And I sat there and my team's like, Carrie, you've got to go to the stage. And I'm like, I was literally in shock. And I got there and I had tears in my eyes. And I remember looking around the room and I thought, my God, I've accomplished something here, right? I mean, and the second that happened, the first thing I thought is, I've got a responsibility to give back. I have a responsibility to make a difference for people in the world. Like, God has given me a platform and I've got to be responsible on how I use that.
And that's really the best measure of a true champion. I talk to a lot of people and they're like, there was that defining moment that literally cast them into some sort of a spotlight, or they're waiting for that defining moment because they don't they're sitting at the table like you going, well, it ain't me. but obviously there comes a time when we have to actively choose to give back. And that's one of the hallmarks of a champion. So what is one of the most important places that you feel like you give back to your community, to your industry, to your employees, et cetera?
For sure, it's in the area of pediatric cancer. I am on the board of the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, and my son is a cancer survivor. Oh my. So, yes, and he had cancer when he was 11 years old, and it was the hardest thing that I've ever been through in my life. I mean, I remember the moment when the doctor looked at us and said, your son has cancer. And everything he said after that was like that Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. I couldn't hear anything. And I was just in shock. And, fast forward a bit, everything that we went through. And then the moment when they told me that he was cancer free, I made a vow and I said, I want to do everything I can. So not one more parent has to hear those words that your child has cancer.
Yeah.
4%, Jim, 4% of the funding, federal funding, goes to pediatric cancer research. 4%.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable the amount of kids, 46 children a day are diagnosed with cancer. And so that's definitely a big place where I give a passion that I have. The other thing is I've had multiple suicides in my family, and I am very passionate about mental health as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suffered myself from depression, as well as, there's been a lot of, people that I've known that have been touched by that. So mental health is also an area that, means the world to me, and making a difference there, especially with young people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I talk to people. One of the things that makes this podcast so much fun and so beautiful is that we're authentic with one another. And the most searched term on ChatGTP during 2023 was the word authentic. So thanks for being real. It means so much. So now we're going to take you one more step in. We're going to go, you're Carrie, and now we look at you and you're the CEO of the year in Tampa. You've got a litany of awards that's Inc. 4 times, Inc. 5,000, 4 times, is it?
Yes, 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. So now you get a chance, and you're talking to the World Wide Web, and you get a chance to say, hey, you young person, I want to give you some counsel about going into the Marines or going into the telecom business. And so what I'm going to say is.
So what I'd like to tell you is that your access to everything that you ever wanted in your life is through discomfort. It's through pain. It's through doing what you're afraid to do, what you feel uncomfortable doing, what you don't want to do. So anytime that you feel comfortable, you're not growing, you're not moving. You need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Wow. That is so poignant. You bring that up, and I'm reminded I've been blessed in my life. I've met 3 Navy SEALs. And you know how many of those folks, because they told us at Nate, like, your odds of meeting a Navy SEAL, it's every 1.5 million people you meet. So I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. But you know how many of them talk about graduation day? Like 0. But how many of them talk about the struggle that they went through as a team, whether it be buds or the time after that, or when they get deployed, or when, you had the same thing, Paris Island graduation day. You're glad it's over, but that's graduation ceremony didn't build you.
Yeah.
Survival did.
Mm-hmm. Survival. Yeah. That's exactly it. And I had, that feeling inside of, of having this extreme pain that you're going through, and, thinking, what am I doing this for? Right? Why am I doing this? And I think that's the part that pulls us through it, is the why. And it could be because I need to prove something to the world. I need to prove something to myself. I need to, for me, I just had a stepfather who did not support me and thought, you'll never be anything. And, the whole story about how terrible I was and all of that. And I'm like, I'm going to prove to him that I can do this. Right. So thank you now to Chuck for doing that. But it's, it was remembering my why while I was going through this, and knowing that there is a point in time, and I knew this when I was younger, there's a point in time that I'm going to help people through the same types of things that I went through. And that pulled me through it.
Bingo. Bingo. Well, thank you. Number one, thank you for your service to our country. And I mean that with the heart of not of someone who served, but of one who had a kid who was over in the rocky, snowy, yucky ground across and away from our country. Thank you for talking about your journey, because I think if I had a daughter, I would want her to look at you and go, you know what? I want to aspire to give back, to build things, to take care of kids when life happens. And thank you for giving back to the Pediatric Cancer Society. How are people going to get in touch and stay in touch with Carrie Charles so they can keep getting these awesome messages?
Yes. Well, I am on LinkedIn. And send me a message. I respond. And that's Carrie Charles on LinkedIn, Carrie. I'm also, our website at Broadstaff is broadstaffglobal.com. And I'm also on Instagram too. So I'm cool.
Yeah. Well, and you're Broadstaff Global. You're just not USA, you're global. Yeah.
No, I will say, when you want something, you have to speak it into existence first. We're not global yet, but our website is Broadstaff Global because it's going to happen.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Grampian. You are now a Grampian, and we're going to get you what only Grampian guests get, and we're going to get you a Grampian t-shirt that you can feel free, and a Grampian pen that's just amazing. I love great pens, and we're going to send you a great pen. But thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming on the Grampian, and bless your heart for all of the things that you do and continue to do for our industry. Everybody, go be like Carrie Charles and be a Grampian. Yes. This is Jim, and I am out. When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.